Hi there, and welcome to Draw With Me. I'm Danny Gregory, and as we do every Thursday, we get together and we do some drawing. Now, normally I'm joined by JJ, but she is away on a trip, so it's just you and me today, and lots of other people from around the world are going to be joining us, and I'm going to introduce myself to all of them in a minute. But I just wanted to tell you one thing. Today is probably going to be about color. So if you have color stuff standing by, get it out. If you don't and you want to just work in pen, you can do that too. You could be prepared to probably create some tone, hue from just your lines. So yes, who do we have here? We have Mineral Past in Padua in Italy. And we have Nordenstam from Stockholm. Welcome. Michael in Denmark. So I'm working my way across Europe here, reaching Maxine, who is in Norfolk, and JF also in Italy, who is enjoying the Creative License course. It's true. We started on January 1st. We are almost at the end of the first month. But of course, anybody who signs up for it at any time can take it and start from scratch. A hot piece of toast. I just enjoyed you not long ago. For breakfast, who is normally working but is here today, Thrush, super sick. Hope you get well soon. I hope you don't have thrush, but I feel get better soon. Sabine in Krakow. I think that's a new place for us. Let's see, we have Anka in Germany. And who else? We have Sue, also in Suffolk, and Maria from Munich. Simon Barker in South Africa, welcome. And probably it's quite a different time of day for you than it is here. Sheila in Bulgaria, and Elizabeth in the Netherlands, welcome back. Susan in Sydney. Mahmoud in Sudan, I think that you might be a first-timer. I don't recognize Sudan among our list of countries, usually. Rebecca in Sweden, Caroline in Strasbourg, and Irene in Holland. Welcome. Dalilia in Argentina, Ellery in Tbilisi in Georgia, and Jackie in Colombia. I don't want to forget Canada, which I often do. And Drusdel in France, and Alex just became a member. Excellent. Alex is here in Arizona, I believe. But welcome to the membership. Becoming a member of this channel gives you cool emojis and a special identifier. So welcome. Yes, and Yvette from Brooklyn. So good. The whole world is represented if we have Brooklyn here, and Rotterdam, and so forth. So good, welcome all, and finally Colombia. So I think we've covered most of the continents now. Yes, we have. So welcome all, and get ready to pay tribute to one of my favorite artists, who is David Hockney. David Hockney is, of course, a British artist, and he also lived here in the United States for a long time, in California. But I believe he's moved back. He was in France for a while. I think he's back home in Yorkshire. I'm not sure where he is exactly now. But what I love about David Hockney is a bunch of different things. I love the fact that he likes to draw ordinary things like I do. He likes to draw ordinary people. He likes to draw landscapes and find the beauty in them. He also is a dabbler in lots of different things. He's done incredible stuff with technology, starting with drawings that he made on a fax machine about 40 years ago. Then he did incredible stuff with Polaroids and revolutionized how people create images using photography by collaging Polaroids together. And then, of course, he was one of the first artists to use first the iPhone, now the iPad, to make incredible paintings. And so I want to show you some of his work if you're not familiar with it, and hopefully it will become an inspiration for you. Today, as I said, color, color, color. Yes. As Kate says, he was one of the first ones to do iPad. Now his iPad drawings are blown up. Sometimes I've seen iPad drawings that were 10 feet tall, beautiful prints that came out of it. So, so what I want to, yes, he does, he actually, Lisa says Procreate. I'm not sure that he's using Procreate. I think he's in his 80s. He says despite all of his adventures in technology, he has been challenged by drawing on the iPad with regularly available technology, and I think he has a special program that was created just for him. So yes, Cindy says she's going to be using watercolor pencils, and that's a good idea. Watercolor pencils would be great for today. But let's have a look at some of his stuff and then see what inspires you when you think about what you have on hand. So this is one of his many beautiful landscapes of Yorkshire. He did several paintings of this particular grove of trees. Now, I don't know if you can see, but this is actually 9 canvases. And what he would do is he would go and get dropped off by the side of the road with a canvas on an easel. And I think he just had these giant paintings made up of multiple canvases. But look at the colors, just gorgeous, gorgeous colors. This landscape is slightly earlier one. Again, probably either oil or acrylic. And just the way that he sees the landscape, all these, I mean, yes, there are different fields, of course, available that he would see, but he turns them into geometries and textures. And so there's just so much here. There's just so much to be inspired by. I think he's just amazing, amazing landscape painter. Here's another example. Look at the colors that he's using. Look at that orange juxtaposed to that purple and the green. So you have 3 kind of the color wheel right there of secondary colors, and then all the different ways he's using green, and then that splash of purple off in the distance with the light blue next to it, and then the lemon yellow on the right. It's just so much, so many beautiful colors. And this is another example of that grove, but you can see this is made up of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 square canvases stacked high, and probably 15. So this is something like 75 individual canvases stacked together to make this huge, spectacular portrait of this grove of trees. And even though it's winter, maybe it's spring. I think it's spring, actually. This whole series that he did was about spring. And you can see the meadows off to the left are green, so the spring is coming. And it feels like a rainy morning. And you can see those trees, the roofs through the trees, the light blue, the kind of teal color, just beautiful colors. Again, he's doing interesting things with the topography, kind of compressing it, distorting it, so you have this almost surreal set of shapes, the twisting road, and then these red, intensely red buildings, the splashes of the aqua color right there in the middle, the purple shadows, the light blue, the lavender roof in the upper left-hand corner. Just so many colors, but they're harmonious, they're balanced. It's really intense. Here's a watercolor. I have a whole book of a sketchbook that he did of just watercolors. And there's a really great book that I got, which is comparing Hockney with Van Gogh. And you can see here in this, you can see those brush strokes. This whole thing feels sort of Van Gogh, but also just more modern, more fresh. So Gleept is asking what medium he uses. Again, it varies. What I've shown you so far have been probably oil and maybe acrylic. This is watercolor. This is the first example of an iPad painting. Let me just make it fill the screen here. Again, it's these at close up you can see that it's done with an iPad, but I think it has the same energy as the oil paintings, but he's able to knock these out really quickly because he's working with the iPad. And this whole series is just gorgeous. And the colors, what appeals to him about the iPad is what appeals to me about it, which is it's the most amazing color you can get, because it isn't just paint on a canvas. It is light coming through glass like a stained glass window. R.K. Hageman has never heard David Hockney before. He is the greatest living British painter. I think he's one of the greatest painters of our time. And there's so much to learn from him. You've got to look him up. Read some of his books too. They're brilliant. So yes, again, another iPad painting. And he was doing a drawing initially with his finger on the iPhone. He would do a drawing every single morning. As soon as he woke up, he would grab the iPhone from his bed and he would just draw something. It could be the view out the window. It could be a bowl of flowers. It could be a piece of furniture, whatever he saw. Look at this, how beautiful this is. And this is layers and layers of color. Just think about how he made this, right? He probably made the sky first, then he made the ground, then he put the tree in, then he put the texture on the tree. He just built it up by layers and layers and layers. This is so beautiful because of, again, this contrast of this bright, intense green, the purple on the ground, and then that sign, the horse sign, just stands out so beautifully. And there's also just so much dimension to it. As Hans says, I love the freedom and movement. Yes, and liveliness. It's true. Caroline says she associates him with the swimming pool series. The swimming pool series he did 50 years ago, probably. He does so much now. He is just so prolific. He makes so many things. This series he did was also about tunnels, and you see these kind of breaks through the trees. Look at the intensity of that magenta path. That path wasn't pink magenta like that, but he makes it so intense. And finally, this one, this is again a painting, and it is so beautiful. Lisa mentions his portraits, and his portraits are beautiful. He's done so many different kinds of portraits, watercolors and oils and etchings and drawings and so many different things. Tiffany, for some reason, is not sold. I'm sorry you're missing out on this. It is beautiful. Rachel, you haven't missed much. We are just looking at David Hockney's landscapes. This is the painting that I want to use as the inspiration for what I'm going to draw today. So I'm hoping that you can see what we can do with this, because it is complex, but it is so rich. And yes, Marie says he did a series of sleeping dachshunds. Yes, he has 2 dachshunds, and he did a whole book of paintings that are of his dachshunds. So, all right, so there we are. Okay, so, excuse me, you get the sense of what we're going to do today. We're going to try and be inspired by his landscape. We can make a copy of that painting if we want to, but you could also take a little piece of it, or you could just be inspired by his colors or by the way that he undulates the landscape, or you might just be seized by the passion of what he does and decide to make something completely else. It's up to you, but he is our inspiration for today. So I am going to use a few different things. I have my tempera sticks that I'm going to be using, and I have a whole bunch of those. I have my other tempera sticks here, my smaller ones, and I'm probably going to be using those. I have my Inktense pencils here. It's to me all about color today. And then finally I have my acrylic markers. I have my Sharpie creative markers, and I have a few Posca pens. And I'm not going to be using these Ecoline because they're beautiful, but they're too transparent. I want boldness and intensity. But I'm also going to think about how I'm going to structure building this, because there's just a lot going on here. But when I look at it, I see Here I see the blue background. I see this kind of yellow midground. I see a lot of green off to the left. I see that red in the corner. I see the purple. And then this light green and dark green. They're both here on the side. So I'm thinking about starting it from a kind of a construction of that. Does it give titles to his paintings? His paintings are usually they usually just kind of, it'll say the Cotswolds, or it'll just name the area. So I think I'm gonna, how big I'm gonna make this thing, but maybe I'm just gonna, I don't have JJ here to remind me not to go off camera, so hopefully I will be able to stay properly on camera. I'll keep checking that. Do let me know if I don't. There's just so many kind of cool lines and shapes in here. I don't have a light violet color. Maybe I'll use this pink. No, that's not right. Is this purple? Yeah, maybe this will work. It's not really correct, but I found it. All right, so this is just a hasty impression of what I see there. And now I'm going to go in and I'm going to sort of try and give it some details and dimensions, but it's sort of like a study of what I see here. Shane asked if I'm able to blend tempera sticks. No, I think I can. You can blend them, you can also layer them, which is kind of what I do. So. Yeah, Lisa points out that mine is more square, which is true. I think I'm Just, yeah, it is a bit more square. I think this needs to go higher. But the nice thing about tempera is you can kind of layer it on top of it. So, yeah. Well, I'm going to make mine square. Again, I'm really not trying to copy him. I'm trying to be kind of riff off him. And let's see where this goes. Just again, going back and forth looking at more stuff that I want to put in here. So much of this background is about all these lines too. I mean, you could absolutely do this on lines. Kathy says, can we tag you with ours on? Yes, absolutely. You can and should tag it. In fact, I'm going to quickly put that in. But this is the tag here. But you can do that when you're done. Yeah, Wandering Star says that they're impressed by the basic palette of colors. Yeah, it is pretty simple. In fact, that's why I'm kind of able to do a version of it using what are these. I mean, these temper sticks are for children. They're like elementary school art supplies. This is not a sophisticated product. Try and see if I can get some of these lines and things like that in here. I could do them with a acrylic marker. Let me see if I can stick to this tempera for now. I don't know if you're familiar with an artist named Grant Wood. He's most famous for a painting that he did called American Gothic that I'm sure you've seen. But his landscapes are worth looking up because he was able to do kind of what Hockney's doing here, but even more dimensionally, and having these undulating Kansas farmland studies that were just gorgeous. Really cool, really inspiring. I was inspired by Hockney when I did a painting that I think I've shown you, where I did a giant painting of the street that I lived in California on cardboard. And his colors, it's color blocks, I think, that I like so much, is also that the lines are not there to necessarily outline things. You know, they're actual lines that are found in the landscape. They're not just the outlines of shapes they're real lines. And by that I mean, sometimes, if you were to draw a chair, let's say, and you did an outline of the legs and so forth, those lines are not really there. But in this case, these lines are here. They're the tilling of the fields and so forth. So I have these big shapes, and now I'm kind of breaking them down and putting in more details inside of them. These narrower tempers, if you ever get the equivalent of these versus the fatter ones are, I don't know, I think that these narrow ones are waxier and they aren't as opaque. So I'm probably going to have to augment them with these acrylic markers. See how much brighter that is. But Hockney also has, as you can see, he has some darker and some brighter things going on in there. So what I'm doing now is I'm using this Posca pen to lighten this road because it isn't standing out enough. But I don't like this pink. I just want to have a bit of lightness in here. I'm going to probably come over and add something on top of this later once this dries. Adding some of these little highlights on these trees now. These are pretty cheap materials that I'm using, like these Sharpie creative markers. They're a couple of bucks a piece, not very expensive. And These temper sticks are also really cheap. I mean, these ones, these narrow ones, are less than $1 a piece. They're all nice and opaque. I thought about doing this in gouache, but there's so many layers to this, I just didn't think I could do it quickly enough, that it would take some time for it to all dry. And so I decided to use these materials. And now I'm starting to feel like I'm going to go off on my own, in my own direction, and stop worrying so much about the reference and just start filling in things as I see them, or as I want to see them. What's interesting about this kind of an exercise is it's really a great way to study a painting. You know, to really look at all the details, regardless of whether you're ultimately satisfied with your depiction of them. What you are learning about is how he put them together, how he thought about this composition of this landscape. And the deeper you look into it as you're drawing it, the more you see details and things that you hadn't noticed before. And choices that he made. I'm going to try now bringing in some colored pencils. See how they do, whether they can stand up. You see, they don't stand out as strongly against, they're not as opaque as these other markers were, but they layer on top of it so they can change the color of something. Yeah, this shows me also that if I'd done this in gouache, I would have had more control over these colors. It's again one of the problems sometimes with using inexpensive art supplies is you don't necessarily get the colors you want. You may not be able to reproduce them without a lot of effort. I have this idea to do a video based on using really inexpensive art supplies. And I thought it's to take like a certain amount of money, like $20, let's say, and go to Target or Walmart or something like that, and see if I can buy all the art supplies I would ever need for $20, and see what is that experience going to be like working with less expensive materials. I think in a lot of cases they'll be adequate, but then you can also start to see where they fail and can't do things that higher quality materials might do. And that way also when you feel yourself like, why are these watercolors so expensive? That kind of an exercise will make you go, oh, okay, I get it now. I see what I'm paying for. A lot of times you don't know what you're paying for. And I hear from people who say, I just don't like the way my watercolors look, or, my colored pencils are always breaking, or they're not opaque enough. And a lot of times it's just because you don't have enough pigment in your watercolors because they were inexpensive, or the binder is overwhelming. Or the paper is not properly sized. It's not good quality paper, which a lot of times doesn't matter, but sometimes it does. But you may not know what you're losing out on. Like these Posca pens, they're more expensive than the Sharpies, and usually I don't care. But in this case, I'm seeing how they are able to make more opaque marks than the Sharpies. That makes me think, oh, okay. That's what you pay for. And sometimes you don't care. You care more about saving a bit of money, that's fine. But I think you should know what the money is going for. It's not just going for the chairman's Bentley. Art supplies can seem really expensive, but it depends on your perspective, I guess. Like, how much value are you getting out of them? How often do you use them? How much do you know about what you're paying for? It's like buying, like a really good pair of shoes. It could cost a lot of money, but then they last you for 10 years. Or a really nice cashmere sweater that seems like insanely expensive, but then you have it for the rest of your life. Or you buy something cheap and it starts pilling after a month. I have a really good brush that I have abused, really abused it. And somebody gave it to me as a present that I found out how much it cost, and it was ridiculously expensive. But I've used it for 10 years probably, and it just continues to stand up. But it's this. It's a Sable Winsor Newton number 6. It's the 7th series. Is it, or is it the 6th series? I can never remember. But yeah, look, you can see how I left it like sitting in water so much that the wood started the paint peeled off it. But this thing will come to a point instantly, despite all the abuse. I mean, now I wish that I had known more about it when I got it, and I would have treated it so much better. I abused it. It's going to be one of the things I pay for in the next life. I'm going to come back as a paintbrush. Somebody's going to abuse me. I've been thinking about doing a series. I don't know if I'll do this, but thinking about doing a series of maybe they're videos or maybe they're live streams that are about anxiety and about using art to diminish anxiety. How to maybe they're just like sessions where we make art and it's all really about relaxing and not really making. I mean, Draw With Me is a little bit like this, but Draw With Me, I think we've become more and more ambitious over the years of doing this. I mean, look, here we are, perfectly forging a famous painting. But this would be more about just chilling and relaxing. There's a lot to be anxious about in this world. And I find that drawing helps me to feel calmer, more present, more centered, more mindful, all those things. Table has got so many art supplies on it right now. I can't even see what I'm doing. So how's yours going? What are you using? What are you doing? Are you using lots of different things like I'm using, or are you you trying to solve the problem with fewer materials? Sometimes bringing in additional things is a way of getting out of if you get stuck and you're like, I can't figure it out, you can bring in some other material and it can sharpen things up. But sometimes it can get away from you and you're just like desperately throwing more and more kinds of things. I know, next I'm going to use spray paint. Next I'm going to add in some lipstick and so forth. But that may or may not help you. But I could also imagine this whole thing being done just with a fine liner. Maybe I should do that. Just figure out exactly how to do all these different colors and textures just with lines and ink. Could be nice. There are great Van Gogh landscape drawings, not paintings, but drawings, where he did just that, where you see how he, using just a reed pen, which is a fairly blunt instrument, able to get to so many different qualities of marks to represent different textures and stuff. Carrie's using Caran d'Ache Neocolors in water. I think that's a good choice. That's a good choice. I like the intensity of Neocolors. Artsy is using Ohu markers. I've heard about those. I've never tried them. Are they paint markers? Yeah. Cloella is saying she's using a watercolor base and Sharpie creative markers on top. That's a good idea too. That way because I'm getting a fair amount of competition from these heavy layers underneath. They're kind of a bit hard to draw on them. And Axel is just doing it with a pencil. That's a nice idea too. Cindy added gouache. Hot piece of toast is just making a mess and having fun. And Jean is using watercolor pencils. How can you make paler horizon? Well, I guess it depends on really what materials you're using. I, unfortunately, committed to none of my colors are light enough to give you, maybe that'll work. Yeah. But it's nice. I mean, when you have that kind of softer colors in the background, it does give a sense of perspective going back. I find colored pencils often save the day. They just come in and they sharpen things up and they intensify colors. But they can also use them to cover up the white that's peeking through. I did a Hockney landscape on my iPad, and it wasn't an iPad drawing that I was copying. It was a painting, and it was really fun, just layering and layering using the iPad. Okay, I'm almost done. I mean, I think this is something we could spend an awful lot of time doing. And I kind of feel like, because this is an experiment, I kind of feel like I want to start all over again. But I don't know if I have time. Because you just learn stuff and you go, okay, if I was going to do this again, I would maybe I would do something like watercolor first and then build over that. That might be a good idea. Barbie's using pan pastels, oil pastels. Yeah, I'm not a big pastel user just because they usually make such a mess in my sketchbook. What was the original medium? I assume it was either oil or acrylic. Nita's using ink and brush pens. Sabine is using Neocolor 2 and Derwent ink pencils and Tombow markers. Good. Jennifer bought Crayola signature colored pencils. That's interesting. Compare well with Prismacolor, because Prismacolor pencils are expensive. Yeah. So I imagine Crayolas are cheaper. Yarn Trekker's using acrylic gouache, making an absolute mess, learning a lot, simplifying details, working from a photo. Good. Photo that she took. Yeah, it makes such a difference when you work from your own photos, doesn't it? All right. Well, we're close to being done. This is... I feel like I want to do something, though, that will make this road seem to be leading you in. My road doesn't seem to lead you in. I think that's probably because I don't have the contrast that's in the original. See how when he gets here, it sweeps down and then undulates back up. It's such a nice line. All right, well, next time I will do it differently. All right, I'm going to have to stop soon because I need the rest of the day to clean up the studio because everything I own is like scattered now around the whole place. But, all right, well, that was nice. That was fun. I enjoyed that. I hope you had a good time too. And again, if you're not familiar with David Hockney, please just Google him. There are just so many examples of the work that he does. There's so much to learn from him. And, he has a deep understanding of art history, and he wrote a fantastic book, which is all about how artists going back to the 16th, 17th century used lenses and mirrors to create their images. And we think of that as cheating, and we don't know that people even did that, but now, yes, they did. And they people like Vermeer, even other people who you would never have thought used them. That's very interesting. But also, it's just understanding the history of art. He did a whole series of drawings of Ingres paintings, and he did a really cool series where there was an exhibition of Ingres drawings, and he did drawings of all of the museum guards, kind of in the style of Ingres, that also hung in that same exhibit. He's also created this kind of virtual immersion thing that's going on now, where it's like you go in and you're in the paintings. It's interesting. I went to a Van Gogh one like that, but this Hockney one seems to be much more interesting. I'm surprised that people don't know him. I think in England he is so well known. But when you think contemporary art is also conceptual and so forth and intellectually challenging. I mean, Hockney has a lot of ideas in what he does, but also his paintings are just a joy to look at, and his use of color is spectacular. And he is in his late 80s, and he's still making art. So I hope he continues to do so, and that he lives an even longer life, because he's just fantastic. And he still chain smokes cigarettes. Doesn't seem to affect him. So yeah, he's amazing. Good. Well, thanks for joining me today. And let me just wrap things up here. Oof, that's a black background. Here we go. Sorry, one more tweak here. And sorry, one more second. There we go. All right. Thank you for joining me today. I would love to see your Hockney landscapes, so please share them on Facebook or on Instagram or in the schoolyard, and make sure you tag them #SBS, which stands for Sketchbook School. Draw with me. Please become a member of this channel. You can do it for as little as $2 or $3 a month or more. It's up to you, however much you want to spend to support the channel, but you'll get a lot of behind-the-scenes things. I'm about to post a really cool long demo, and I often share the videos that I post on the general channel earlier, but I try to make a video weekly, more or less. So you can see that, and you can see all the ones I've made before. I've been doing it now for 6 months or so. My new class is called The Creative License. It started in January 1st, but you can start at any time, and you will get 31 days, and they don't have to be concurrent days, 31 days full of prompts and ideas to inspire your creativity. People seem to really be enjoying it, and to really be changing their whole approach to art making as a result of this basically month of immersion. So think about doing it yourself. Sign up at sketchbookschool.com, and sign up for my essays too. I write a new essay every Friday. They are free, and you can go get them by going to dannysessays.com, where I share ideas and stuff like that. Whew, that was a lot. I miss JJ. You probably do too. Just old Grumblebutt here muttering while he draws. We don't have the effervescence that lights up the room. Cindy says, join the membership, join Creative License. Very good. Alex is 5 days in and just became a member. Alex, a twofer. Yes, 5 days into Creative License. So if you want to say, I'm going to spend a month making art and really thinking about my art and going in a new direction with it and really trying to get deep and experimental and fun, no matter what level you're at, it's appropriate. Try it. The Creative License, giving yourself permission to be the artist you truly are. All right, I better stop before for all I know, JJ's watching this somewhere. I'm going to get a harsh rebuke. Stop palavering and hang up. I will. Subscribe to this channel. I'll see you again next Thursday, and we will draw something else that will be fun.